Hey, Paul.
Hey Fab, how you doing?
I'm great. Yourself?
Good.
Cool. How, so I'm interesting. I'm interested. Sorry, I'm interesting. I am also interesting. I'll give myself a pat on the back.
You're very interesting.
Um, I'm interested in today's episode because it's kind of came out of nowhere. But, we've been talking a lot. Like, we've been doing this show for a while now. Um, and we've been talking about the sales process. We've talked about CRMs. And maybe this is something like a fab thing, but I always find that how should I use my CRM throughout my sales process? So I'm pretty comfortable. I put in a lot of effort early on with the prospecting and all that stuff, and I know you'll talk about that. But like later on in the sales process, I feel like I'm back. Nice. That was censored. I should have been saying I'm using my CRM. Great. This is amazing.
I don't know why it's not supposed to ring on my. I just turned it off. It's not supposed to ring when they call, but
That's fine.
I apologize.
But so I find I'm back at a place where I'm kind of moving deals forward just to move them forward, just to kind of track revenue that's coming in. But I'm not using it as an assistant or as a tool on once the discovery calls booked and that part of the sales process kicks in. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about how to use your CRM, through every stage of the sales process.
Okay, I think it's a very valid question, and let me talk about it at high level first. So, like, sort of the executive. The executive answer is you should always be in your CRM. It should be a portal to everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? It should be a portal to all your activities. So if you're making a phone call, it should be through your CRM because then it'll be logged. If you're writing emails, it should be through CRM for obvious reasons. Taking your notes. So it should be your main open software at all times. And you should really see it as a sales assistant at a high level. And what does that mean? And we've said this before, full disclosure, if you're a one-man shop, it's a little different because what you do is, what you're going to say to your client, and the conversations you're having. So the shared data might be less important, right? But let's face it, the minute you have more than one person, the CRM becomes incredibly valuable because people go look at your notes. They'll understand your activity. You'll understand your own closing ratio. All these things are calculated by most CRMs today. Some CRMs, we were talking about this before, will even analyze, I'm not sure how far the AI is, but analyze, in your conversations, how much time you're spending, if your CRM set up that way. I'm not sure the AI is there, but if you have a software that tells you how much time you're spending talking, listening, scripting, or creating a transcript, of what was said. So it's just a great tool. And what happens if it becomes automatic, if you're just doing everything through your CRM, then it becomes, like I said to you before offline, is you should be using it all the time. And so what does that mean? Is like in the morning, your calendar is hooked up to your CRM, your emails, your phone, all communication is hooked up to your CRM so that it's accounted for, and the data is being driven so that you understand, again, like I said, your closing ratio, what's being said, and then you can work on the different things. And then brilliantly, what you and I do, with full disclosure again, what you and I do is we help people with that actual sales process. So the whole brains of your CRM, which is what do you do at different stages? What do you say? What are the milestones? What are you looking for? How do you sell? What are you talking about? Well, all of those milestones then are automatic. So let's say you're starting off at the beginning of the day, you've got a bunch of prospecting calls to do, a few of them, or you'll manage to do everything in stage one. So your introduction stage, and then you might even go to your discovery stage. So you're finding a whole bunch of stuff, and then you're confirming their problem. And your CRM should have all these milestones in there as reminders. Hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Now, depending on which CRM you have, they can literally pop up as a checkbox. Did you ask your client about this? Are you talking to the decision maker? Do you know what they're willing to invest? Is there competition involved? What are the problems? What are the challenges? What's the motivation? What's the need? All these things, can be checkboxes You can have even, well, we've talked about this too before. If you're training a new salesperson, you can have videos in there at all different stages showing them what they need to do. But essentially, to come back to your question, in my opinion, your CRM's open and it's the portal to everything else.
Right.
So it becomes the portal to everything you do. And if you use it that way, it becomes easy. It's your assistant. You're not doubling up on things. You're not taking notes in one software and transferring them to another. You're using that. And I'm not sure actually, and this is full disclosure again, I'm not sure if Slack or all these other communication tools hook up to various CRMs. You could probably tell me more than anybody else, like if HubSpot has a Slack API or whatever it is. But that would be great too, because if all that information, if you're using Slack, all going into your CRM, that's wonderful, right?
Yeah, definitely HubSpot has, and obviously now Slack is owned by Salesforce, so for sure there's that happening as well. And then, but HubSpot has a built-in integration as well, and built-in integration with a lot of tools. So, I mean, there are like, accounting tools and stuff like that, obviously tie back to sales activity that you can integrate with your CRM as well. And hence the importance of being so present in your CRM, because it's no longer just a tool for you as a salesperson or your sales team. It's a tool that everybody from accounting to marketing to customer service, everybody's using, because everybody's tools are all connected to your central database. That's your CRM.
And it's personal now, because I've had 2 or 3 clients who actually specialize in automating the process of communication between CRM and ERP and other accounting softwares, right? Yeah. And so in a complex manufacturing process, let's say you're a bike manufacturer. I don't have any clients that are bike manufacturers, but salespeople are talking to all their clients. They're sending the orders to be processed. They're talking to administration. Well, all that, if your CRM has the proper APIs, and most big CRMs do, well, then it becomes a lot simpler process as well. Rather than you taking a note, oh yeah, I got to go bring this to accounting. No, it's done automatically. When it says closed and sold in your CRM, poof, the PO, you're asking for a purchase order, everything for a production order, everything just, starts rolling and the things start going. So that's the other advantage of using your CRM. You and I are in services. It doesn't go that way. It's not like, okay, boom, and we're rolling out, we're the product, we're the service. But
right.
I think in a manufacturing setting, it can make a huge difference. You can solve a lot of my clients who are doing this. Their sales point is that they're saving salaries, because you can reappropriate these people to more important tasks than bringing the paper from the ERP, from the CRM software to the ERP software to the manufacturing software, right? Because there's a lot of that's still being done in a large manufacturing setting. So, anyways,
let's try to bring it down a notch. Not a notch. I don't know. Bring it down a bit. So, my sales process, obviously, the first part of your sales process, for lack of a better word, is your prospecting. So, how do you see that? Like, if I'm in sales, how should I use my CRM for prospecting?
Well, okay, so that's super simple. So you go in and you decide, you've got a few leads. You say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to call these 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it might be. And then, so that's in your calendar. Okay, I'm calling these 10 people. And all the links to these people are there. And then, so as you're talking to them, you're prospecting. You're saying, okay, good prospect, bad prospect. You're qualifying them or you're disqualifying them. Right. And you're moving forward. So that's all in your prospecting stage, right? And then it reminds you, what's my elevator pitch? What am I saying, right? Is there a little bit of tweaking? Are you selling a service here and a product there? Are you, is your pitch changing a little bit? Are you talking about different things that you do for clients? For example, if you're talking to a client about, very HubSpot related product, well, your elevator pitch might be more tuned into that, right? Your conversations. Right. Whereas if you're talking about a general marketing service, you might be, you might be doing it differently. So, so you're in your prospecting, you're deciding, okay, who am I going to talk to? And it's all going in there, and all the data is going in there. And who's going to the next level? Who's going, who's staying back?
And that's where also, like, obviously your tasks, like your reminders that you set yourself up with, or if you're using like an automation tool that kind of reminds you automatically to call people at, certain time intervals and all that. So all your tasks will be there. And I think that's pretty straightforward. But I like, and which I'm surprised how few people always connect like their phones and their calendars to that. If everything's connected, and we're in a world also, I mean, for HubSpot, and I'm sure other big CRMs too, is like, if somebody calls me on my cell phone, it's going to still automatically log it into HubSpot, and I could log the outcome of that call and all that stuff as well. So by connecting all your tools, you're making it easier to be where you need to be. So prospecting, I think, is pretty straightforward. I think the big thing is also about filtering your list so you know which leads you're reaching out to, or filtering the database so you know which leads to reach out to, and so on and so forth. Then stage one, you've spoken to somebody, you've booked a meeting. I'm guessing that's your next stage. How should I use my CRM at that point?
Let's talk about different stages, like in a very simple form. So you've got the prospect stage, right? And then you got stage. So in the prospecting stage, you're going to find out a little bit whether you're going to have an actual discovery call. So let's call stage one prospecting. Okay, then boom, you book that discovery call. In that discovery call, you're finding out a lot of things. That's where the mass of the product is, right? You're finding from you're trying to fix a challenge all the way down, all the way deep dive into the motivation of what's driving. That's all in the discovery, right? That's really where the heart of sales happens, right?
Right.
And after that, you're confirming all the needs, wants, and motivation that person has. So that's your next stage. So let's say stage one, prospecting, discovery, huge stage. Then the next stage is confirming what is necessary, what they require, right? Your next stage is now you're presenting to solve the challenges that fit all those motivations, right? So that's your next stage. So you present, and then you're, we'll say you're closing. So, so there's your next stage, you're prospecting, and you're deciding, you're qualifying whether are they really ready for the discovery stage, or what, this guy's, this company's, I'm wasting my time,
Right.
I'm going to put on the back burner, or you know what, yeah, it's really worth it. Then you've got your job to do, asking many questions, you're really finding out. And then, I'm going to really simplify. It's not really the way it is always, but you're in your discovery stage, you're asking a bunch of open-ended questions. In your confirmation stage, you're asking maybe a few close-ended questions to confirm the things that you found out in your open-ended questions, right?
Right.
So, Fab, do you really want to grow 5 inches? Are you sure you want to do this operation? Yes. Okay. Well, okay. Because Fab told
me. Example. Okay.
Fab wants to be 5 inches taller because he's only 5'2" and he wants to be 5'7".
I'm definitely not 5'2".
So there you're confirming it, and then you're going to present. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring you. Then you're presenting. We bring you into this operation room. We cut your legs. We insert these big blocks of wood that are 5 inches tall. They'll make you 5 inches taller. You'll be 6'3", and blah blah blah. Okay, are you in? Yes, I'm in. You've closed the deal. Okay, operation set next week. Give me my $100 deposit for the $200 operation, and we're set.
Right. I'm so stumped by that example.
Well, here's the thing. So, and I did that on purpose. I like teasing you, of course, because Fab's actually way taller than I am. So here's the thing, is that as you flow through the stages and you've got the different milestones, right? If you set up your sales process properly, you'll know, okay, in prospecting milestone, to really set up the discovery call, the client's got to have a challenge, right? He's got to fit within my parameters. He's a business that does, $10 to $100 million a year, and he has marketing needs. Okay, all right. So then it's worth the discovery call. If he doesn't have a few of those basic factors, like, okay, they're selling to a multinational conglomerate based in Japan, and they're already dealing with a huge multinational marketing firm. Well, then I might go into sort of secondary reference, great conversation we had. Do you have any referrals for me? So that these are all in your milestones. These are all, references, keep qualifying. At each stage, you're always, and we've said this before, but each stage has a referral ask if it makes sense. And each stage also has a qualifying. Because you're always deciding, because you might have a whole discovery call, went great, and at the end you're realizing, really can't help them.
Right.
Or if this is going to be a long shot, or we want to do all these wonderful things with you, Fab, but we're taking a hiatus because the whole company did so well last year. We're all going for a 6-month cruise. Okay, on the back burner, right? So, but all that to say that if your sales process is properly entered in your CRM and the CRM has the right milestones, it's telling you, oh, you didn't get this. Are you sure this thing's really qualified? What do you need to know? You know? So you're not just pushing a sale. You're not just saying, it's a great opportunity because I love it. And I want to. You're really going according to logical things, right? Or you're adding rationality to what is very much an emotional process. So if your CRM is well set up, you live in your CRM, you breathe your CRM, and it helps you continuously. Now, you've inserted the sales process, you've done everything properly, and then you know when you're going from stage to stage. But really, you know, I'll say this, and you might slap me in the back of the head, but your sales process could be one stage of a bunch of milestones, right?
Right.
But we just decide that different milestones equate a stage, because most people say, okay, lead, wonderful. I'm calling him. Is he really a prospect? Yeah, okay. He's a real prospect. Okay, then discovery. But all this can happen, you know, if you're on a 5-hour flight, all this could happen in one shot, right?
It depends what you're selling, right? Also, I mean, I've worked with some people that have a 1 or 2 stage sales process because it's not an easy sell, but it's a quick sell. Like, there's not a massive investment involved, and the need is usually quite obvious. But others, I guess, if you have a more complex process and you need to go to like your sales engineers to do this and do that, like they'll have different stages and different milestones. But yes, technically all could happen in one shot.
I mean, let's say you're a sales engineer and you're flying. Let's say you're an aviation engineer and you're flying on a plane, you know, on a 16-hour flight to Japan. You sit down next to your client and he's working on this big project, and you just have the whole conversation there. You look at the specs. I mean, who knows? You could seal the deal. So the reason I'm saying this is that you can't get stuck on the stages too. You can't say, okay, I've completed stage 1. Yes, it's a reminder, but really it's about all those little milestones.
Right.
Really, the secret to a good CRM is all the little milestones, not the stages. The stages are just there as a overall analysis of what's going on. And then when you're looking at it, you know, from 50,000 feet, say, okay, we've got so many in stage 1 that have a 15% chance. So they're in the funnel, they're only worth 15% of the total investment we're asking for. So you've got $100 million in there where it's really worth 15 million. So that's okay when you're doing projections and stuff, but it doesn't really help you sell. It helps the upper management figure out, and you to figure out, you know, your closing ratios and whatnot, and what activities you might need to do. Oh, I'm a little behind last year. Okay, do I need to do more prospecting or whatnot?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I could see how it could potentially help you because, you know, you don't all have that 16-hour flight to Japan, right? Like you have, your prospect has 45 minutes here and maybe like 30 minutes the next week and so on and so forth. So obviously you can't. And
there's competition and there's things getting in the way, and you might not be priority number 1, you know.
Exactly. But I really like what you said, where it's like it's more about the milestones than the stages, which is really, really, really interesting. We'll talk about that. I think we could do some fun stuff around that.
Well, it boils down to, you know, I don't know if I've talked about him before, but there's a guy I love, James Clear, Atomic Habits. A lot of people have spoken about this before, but he sort of brought it together in his book, Atomic Habits. It really becomes, you are the sum of your activities, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're a nuclear physicist, if you're a gardener, or a doctor, an engineer, or the best salesperson in the world. What it boils down to is the activities. Well, the milestones are just telling you what activities have you done.
Right.
Along the way.
Right.
So if you've asked the question, eventually have you done the proposal? Eventually, you know, have you done the work? So that's where the milestones are important, because the milestones are based on certain activities. Made the phone call, asked the questions, found out the investment, all these things. The stages is just sort of an agglomeration of all that put together. I'm gonna go off a little bit on a tangent here.
Yeah.
I say this to everyone. It's not about the big objective. You know, it's not about the house on the lake. It's about, when you're in the CRM, it's about the activities you need to do to get the house on the lake, right? So that's what I mean by milestones.
Right.
So the house on the lake is the objective. Let's say it's the closing of the deal, right? You can't just go and say, okay, Mr. Client, are we ready to go? You need to have all those milestones. So you're right. It really, And I say this to people a lot, and we forget it. And I say it to myself a lot because I forget it too. Because as human beings, we tend to go to the big picture, right. And that, on another tangent, that's why we worry about things, because we don't focus on the activities. We focus on the big picture. We say, oh my God, I'm not going to achieve this objective. Okay, well, really what you should be saying is, what do I need to do to achieve this objective? Is it achievable? Am I going to qualify this? You know what? I'm never going to be a marathon runner that's going to win the Olympics. Okay, so I'm going to try to win my little local marathon instead.
Yeah.
So then you readjust the objective, but maybe the activity stays the same. You're still running, you're still practicing, you're still, doing all the things you need to do.
Right. Sorry, I'm still stuck on your, on the milestones are more important than the stages. That's completely blew my mind. So I'm still stuck. I still stuck 5 minutes ago in the conversation.
Well, I'm reaffirming that, and it's very much true, Fab. It's true for anything. But human beings, we're a little bit strange, right? Because we often, we'll be really impressed by that super rich guy across the street who has a big house, and we say, oh, what did he do to get there? Often that really rich guy or girl worked really hard at something and they just stuck to it, and those are the milestones. Those are the activities,
Yeah.
And it's even more than milestones. It's the minuscule milestones. Like, did you do your 5 calls today? Did you do your 10 calls today? Did you do your 100 calls today? Did you, and often you'll see that most people that don't do well is because they don't follow through on the things. The person that doesn't lose weight, the person that doesn't achieve their objective. Right. And often look at the difference between the person who wants to lose weight or gain weight or whatever that is want to do, and the one that fails and succeeds. Most of the time, it's based on the activities they did. What did they have the willpower to keep doing the things that were necessary to get there?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Cool. So if I maybe try to summarize it, your CRM should be where you're living all day. Whether it's your sales tasks and all that, in terms of, especially in the prospecting stage, and kind of looking at each stage of the sales process to see which milestones you need to hit with each prospect that you're speaking with, right? So the prospect 1, okay, I haven't hit any of the milestones yet, right? It's brand new. The discovery call is tomorrow. Here's what I'm going to try to hit, and the prospect number 3, they're further on in the sales process. We already hit 10 of the 17 milestones, type of thing, and so on and so forth.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, it boils down to that. It really does. And if you have a good CRM and a good system, it becomes your assistant. It reminds you that you have to hit those milestones.
Right.
So it's saying, it's saying, hey, you got these tasks to do, rather than saying, listen, when I was my first job as a sales manager, I remember people saying, okay, you got to hit, $10 million for this week, in sales, whatever. I had a big group of people reporting. And then I go to my people and I'd say, well, and to me it was obvious, and I think most good sales managers is like, well, what do we have to do to hit those $10 million, right? It's not, oh, go out and get the money, okay, what's going on? What's a roadblock? What's holding the client back? What's holding you back? It was media sales. So it was you had to have that conversation to really figure out what's going on. And when you boil it, it really is all about having those conversations. And most of my reps that did really well are the ones that picked up the calls and did the cold calls when they didn't feel like it. And the ones that had less success were the ones that found excuses why they couldn't do this or couldn't do that. And they asked for a raise and they wanted, less commission, more base. They were good at negotiating for themselves rather than negotiating for the commission they were going to get on sales that they made, back then. And I'm talking 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
When I was in my 20s. Say that back then we didn't have a good CRM.
Right.
We still
obviously CRMs are improving, right?
But if I could go back in time, if I could take the CRMs we have today, if I could go back in time, they would each one of my salespeople would have a sales assistant, right? Right. Reminding them of the activities that they set for themselves. It's not me setting the activities, it's them, right? Yeah. It's you setting your own activities to reach that objective. And that's really important because the CRM, the beauty of a CRM is you're the one controlling these things, right? I mean, we're getting into the emotional side of how you process it, but if you use your CRM properly, the reason that people don't use CRMs properly is because there's a disconnect on what they think it can do for them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
some people just think this CRM is just going to, help my boss, stare me down and
Get you.
bark at me. My boss is here.
Yeah, that's definitely because I mean a lot of the old CRMs were like that, right? Because of decision, and that is a problem with a lot of, and maybe we're veering too off track here, but that is a problem with a lot of these software, right? It's like the decision maker is the one that wants to see all the reports and the stuff like that, and so everything is set up so that they can see all the calls that are being made and all that, but it's not set up to actually help the salesperson close, or it was.
And that's not the problem. That's not the fault of the CRM, right? That's the fault of the way you're using it. But that's a good point. That's a good point, because any CRM could be misused and any CRM could be properly used. The CRM is a tool. It's an interface. Let's talk outside of both of our realms. Do you prefer using a Gmail interface for your G Suite, or are you using the Microsoft Suite? I mean, it's all a preference. They essentially do similar things, and then you've got the Apple Suite. So most advanced CRMs have functionalities that resemble each other. So most of the time, you're not going to buy a CRM based on functionality. You're going to buy it on fit with the company you're going to do and the people, you and I, that are going to help you set it up, right? That's what's important.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. See you next week.
Talk too much as usual.
No, that was good. The question was for you on this one.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care, Paul.